settings reset?
Yeah.
Oh.
So good to me. Before I took a breath, you breathed your life in me. You have been so kind to me. so good to me. And I felt no worth, you paid it all for me. You have been so, so kind to me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. I couldn't earn it, I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Lie, you won't tear down, coming after me. So shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie, you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Oh, it chases me down, fights till I'm found, leaves the 99. And I couldn't earn it, and I don't deserve it, still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God. Yeah.
We worship you, Jesus. We worship you, Jesus. We worship you, Jesus. God, we just thank you. We thank you for this time of worship. More than that, Lord God, we just thank you for your goodness. We just thank you for your love and your mercy and your grace, God. Lord, we're in very hard times, God, and so many things are happening daily, God. Daily things are happening and daily things are changing in everyone's lives surrounding us, God. But one thing remains, Lord God, and that is your goodness and your grace and your mercy, Jesus. Lord God, nothing about you changes, God. Lord God, your love remains strong, powerful in our lives, in our surroundings, Lord God, in everything we see and everything we touch, God. Lord God, and we just thank you. We thank you so much, Lord, for just being such a great God, for being such a loving Father. You
Well, hey everyone. Good morning. My name is Kelly Metlock and I'm the lead pastor here at Icon. And we have been having some technical difficulties this morning. So literally, Dan got the camera working like 2 minutes ago. So we thought, so we're like, well, we'll just hop on live after worship really quick. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and really quick go over a couple of things. It might look like when we transition from this to the message, it might like we're still figuring some things out. So just bear with us this morning. But we already put in the chat about the Connect card. If you're new, we would love for you to fill one out so we can stay in touch with you, stay connected, and also so you can stay up to date on anything that's going on around here. Also, we want to take a second here to thank all of you who give faithfully to Icon, who support the mission and the vision that's going on around here. We know that especially right now, financially, things are hard for everyone. So we're just so grateful to all of you for continuing to give and to support Icon Church and to support what we're doing in our community. And here in a second, we are going to go into our message for today. And I'm really excited because we're doing it a little bit different. We decided to have a conversation with a couple of our very own, with Christine Stivers and Sabrina Jennings, a couple of women that are a part of Icon, and just talking about, continuing talking about faith and politics and how those things intersect in their lives. And we just thought it would be such a great thing to have you hear from a couple of our own, and just hear different perspectives and the way that different people are processing, faith and politics, especially in this season with Election Day being just a couple of days away, and things have been really just wild. So I'm really excited to present this conversation to you, and then hopefully, as long as Dan's like nodding his head at me, as long as everything is still working. As long as everything is still working, we would. Okay, all right. Okay, he's had his fun. So we'll see you back here after the message. It is a little bit longer today, just because the conversation was so good. I even cut out a little bit of it for time's sake so we could fit it all in our online setting, but it's still a little long. So hope you enjoy, and we will see you right back here after the message. I'm super excited today to have both of you guys on. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this. Before we get started with our conversation about faith and politics, if you guys could just each introduce yourselves to everyone. I know there's some people that will know you, but some won't. So if you could just tell us who you are and then just a little bit about yourselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christine Stivers. I was born and raised here in Austin, in the Austin area, and I have been married for about 5 years. We have twin girls that just turned, or they're about to be 5. They're 4 right now. Very first pregnancy right off the bat, just went for it, 2 twin girls. So it's been a fun, interesting years. I am a manager in a provider data department for a health plan here in town. And so working from home right now. And yeah, that's been my days. Other than that, just lots of different movies, music to keep sane, trying to stay off of social media as much and finding different hobbies during this time right now. So that's kind of our life right now.
Yep. Awesome.
Cool. And hi, I'm Sabrina Jennings. I am a UCC, that's United Church of Christ, ordained minister. I'm working part-time right now with Central Texas Interfaith through the election to do some get out the vote work. But otherwise, I've been working at home to prepare for adoption. My husband and I are in the program to foster to adopt, and hopefully we'll have a placement soon. We live in the Lockhart area out in the country, and you might see a cattail pop up every now and then. So we just got a kitten a couple weeks ago. Who's been a lot of fun. But yeah, and I enjoy cooking and baking and arts and crafts stuff, and playing board games and things like that.
Awesome. Yeah, we don't mind the cattail. Cats kind of, they don't really have like, they don't really give you autonomy. It's like they just kind of jump on you and do whatever they want whenever. So, it's all good. Well, so here's the thing. So, again, thank you both so much for doing this and being willing to come and share your perspective. And the reason I wanted to do this for this Sunday is I think, especially with topics that can tend to be a little bit more tense, I think one thing that adds a lot of value are honest conversations. And I think, especially in a typical church setting, it's like, one person gets up and kind of gives the sermon and shares their perspective and their opinion, and then you're done. And with something like this, I just thought it would be so helpful for us to be able to hear some different perspectives and some different points of view. And even for the people of Icon to be able to hear from a couple of their own, just people that are part of our faith community. And you're both just so smart, and you have so much to offer both our community here and this world. And so I just really was looking forward to hearing your thoughts and what you had to say about this whole idea of faith and politics and how those things intersect for us in our lives as followers of Jesus. And so today we're just gonna, I'm just gonna ask some questions, and we're just gonna have a conversation and just see where it takes us. And I'm pretty confident that I think all of us today will walk away with something helpful that we've learned, something new that we maybe haven't thought of before. And so we'll just go ahead and jump right in to the first question, and either one of you can feel free to answer first. First question. So last week we heard a message from Pastor Eugene Cho, and one of the things that he talked about that really has been really influential for me, and something that I think is really important for all of us as Christians, is this whole idea of how important it is that our theology is what informs our politics and not the other way around. Where if we're going to say that we want to be followers of Jesus and we want to emulate Christ, that it's important that Christ is like, that's kind of the basis from which we decide how we're going to engage politically and what the beliefs that we hold. And so I'm just curious, for each of you, how does your faith guide your political choices?
I think for me, it's, in all honesty, I've always kind of separated them. And I haven't always been active on a political front. And I don't know if it was just the not feeling like it was my responsibility, or, just not being as engaged growing up, family not being engaged in it. And so I just kind of kept it separate for a long time. But I think for me, something I've thought out this year is, hi, I'm going to confess this. I've never read the Bible from cover to cover, right? So for me, that was something this year that I wanted to complete. So starting with the New Testament and just reading the words and getting to that political climate, like you just can't help but realize how much it goes together, and how, Jesus was, all the stories, reaching out to the people, going out, helping, preaching, all of that. So for me, that's really given me a new perspective on that, and starting with the New Testament and, reading those different stories, I think really helped for me, putting it together from a political standpoint of how to, stand up for people, learn about people's stories, and kind of help, change that viewpoint for me a lot this year.
That's really good. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. And something I've thought about quite a bit is just the meaning of politics. And a lot of people have an immediate reaction to politics, whether it's from, a religious perspective, that they're like, oh, it's, I just want to focus on the spiritual and not get into politics. Or some people who say, politics just isn't my thing. But politics impacts and affects everybody. Politics is really just about how do we live together. Even from just the family unit, you have rules and guidelines, routines, values that serve and structure how you live together with the people in your household. And so that's what politics is, so that we can live together in a neighborhood, in a city, in a state or country. It's how we live together. And I think, all through our scripture, what we see in what we can know of the character of God and what we see in Jesus is a deep concern for how we relate to each other and live together. How do we divide our resources? How do we provide for those who have less? How do we ensure that justice is done? So it's deeply intertwined.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I think, Christine, I can relate to how when you said you used to keep them separate. I think that I did that for a real long time. And I think part of it was not understanding a lot of it. Part of it was hating all of the back and forth. Like it just felt, it was kind of exhausting. But then a big part of it that I realized was a lot of times, to me, I felt like I could go and vote, but really no matter what the outcome was, I never felt like it actually affected me personally. And I started to realize, I was like, oh, that's actually really a sign of privilege, that I am in a place where I'm privileged enough to where the policies aren't actually really having an effect on my everyday life. And then I was like, oh, but wait a minute. I'm like, because there are people who are majorly affected by these policies, and oftentimes it's more marginalized groups of people. And I'm like, and who was it that Jesus really went to bat for? And I was like, oh, this, it does matter. Like it matters that I engage because, it affects people. And so, yeah, I can relate to that. And so, yeah, thank you both so much for sharing that. Do either of you have a particular, and if not, it's fine, but do either of you have a particular scripture that has maybe been really influential for you as you have formed what your personal politics are?
To me, mine, and I laugh because I use it on my girls all the time. But the golden rule, and I believe it's in Matthew 7, right? Like, just treat others how you want to be treated. I know it's simple, it's high level, but when we're thinking about the things that, you know, matter in our lives, affect our lives, you know, just thinking about that, that's something I always go back to. It's nice and simple. And I was laughing because, you know, hello, I was like, oh, there it is, Matthew, right here. You know, like, it's just, you know, I know it's nice and simple, and politics isn't always simple. But for me, that kind of is the starting point when I start to think about a lot of different policies and candidates and things like that.
That's so good. That's so good. How about you, Sabrina?
I mean, one that comes to mind is that I really like and that I've used in teaching some is the story of the persistent widow that Jesus tells, of the widow who was, an injustice was done against her, and she went to the ruler and he wouldn't listen to her, and he told her no, and she just kept going back and back and back until he was like, finally, okay, I'll give you what you want, so you'll stop harassing me. And it's just such a story of, you know, courage and stepping out and using your voice, and maybe creating some tension and a little bit of conflict. I mean, and so I really like that story.
Yeah, that's so good. I honestly had not thought about that, and I'm like, oh man, yeah, that's
a good one. Yeah,
it really, really is. Yeah. Okay, so you know, we've talked a little bit about how our faith informs, you know, how it informs your politics. So, and you know, Christine, you talked about, you know, the golden rule of, you know, treating others how you want to be treated, and I think an underlying theme for all of us as we're trying to follow Jesus is this whole idea of loving our neighbor. You know, that Jesus, you know, the greatest commandment, it's like love God and love your neighbor as yourself. And so for you, as we're in an election season right now, and we're casting votes, and we're, you know, kind of using our voice in that way, for each of you personally, what does it look like for you to love your neighbor in the voting booth? So when you go to vote, as you're thinking of, man, when I cast my vote, what are some ways that you're thinking through how you can best love your neighbor by who you choose to vote for?
I think taking it seriously, as far as doing research on the candidates, informing yourself on propositions, whether it be, you know, websites, going to look at the ballot, talking to others, you know, taking it seriously. Because I think, you know, I'd hate to, okay, again, confession, right? And in previous voting times, you know, it would be like, let me go vote for the president, and then everyone else is like, you know, skip. I don't know, that name looked familiar on a poster, maybe I got a flyer, you know, something like that, right? So, you know, and that's how I've voted previously like that too, not understanding like the importance of what we're really doing. So I think just taking it seriously, informing yourself on that, because like you're saying, and if you're talking to your neighbors, if you know your neighbors, know their concerns, then you can have that outlook when you research the candidates. and know the propositions and things like that. So I think just, really taking it seriously before going in there, to know exactly, how you're going to vote or who you're looking for.
Mhm.
That's really good.
Yeah, I agree. And it takes a bit of effort to do that, especially, unfortunately, here in Texas, it can take a lot of effort to be a real informed voter. But yeah, I completely agree. That's so important. And one thing to realize is that, we talk about that it's a right and it's a privilege to be able to vote. But there are so many people, even living in our communities, who aren't able to vote. And so we do need to be conscious of what are the issues affecting not just us, but our wider community.
That's good.
And how do we vote in a way that is going to represent not only ourselves, but our neighbors who can't vote. And, that's really important with local elections, but then even what happens at the, state level, and of course with the presidential, we know has effects globally. I was really struck by a story I heard on a podcast this past week of this young woman from somewhere in Europe, I think, who was just devastated because she can't vote in the US election, and she's watching and like hearing every day about what's happening, and that's affecting her over there in real ways.
Wow.
And it was just, it was so striking. And to think that, like, that's on us. What happens to our neighbors and what happens to people overseas.
Yeah.
And so, we need to be conscious of that, and maybe to that end, educate ourselves and build relationships with our neighbors so we know what are their concerns and their needs.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good.
I love that so much too, because I've talked with a few DACA recipients too that they're doing all that they can to encourage those that can vote too. For that reason, they cannot. And the things that have affected them on that level, and if policies don't change, what could happen to them. So that's a terrific point. Like, we're able to, let's do it on behalf of those that can't as well too. That's awesome.
Yeah. And even just that idea that we are not just citizens of America, that we are global citizens, that it's, yes, these elections do affect all of us, but it does, it also affects the world, and so, and I love what you both said about talking to your neighbors and getting to know your neighbors so that what their concerns are, that, and it's not just about, I think a lot of times our tendency, because, I think in America, we are a very individualistic society where we're very focused on ourselves and what's best for ourselves and our own. And so I think that we really have to train ourselves, and even that even seeps into Christianity in a lot of ways, where it's about me asking Jesus into my heart and being saved from my personal sins. And then beyond that, it's like, if I'm good with God, I'm good, and I think making ourselves understand that it's not just about our flourishing, it's about everyone's flourishing, what's going to do the most good for the most amount of people. And I think, that's really important to remember. Thank you both. That was really, really good what both of you shared. Okay, so obviously, anytime we're talking politics, we understand that everybody believes all kinds of things, and we are not going to agree with every single person. And there are going to be a lot of times in our lives too, we're going to have people that we're close to that we're going to disagree with, and people that we love that we disagree with, people that we work with, that we're in community with. And it just seems that politics just, man, it just has this way of like dividing us. I feel like, again, faith and politics are two things that I think have this way of dividing us more than anything else. So for each of you personally, how do you handle political conversation and discourse with those who you disagree with? What are some ways that you kind of, whether some things that you're intentional about, or practices that you try to put into place, or things that you kind of tell yourself to help you in those conversations when you're talking with someone that you disagree with?
Still learning this one.
Same.
And I think this was a big reason I picked up Eugene's book. I had heard him talk, and I was like, oh, okay, like, you know. So I have not had a conversation like this personally. I do have family members that definitely have different viewpoints. And I think, you know, we've had some family members, you know, that'll like come and like, oh, you know, did you see this on Facebook about, you know, this particular candidate, or did you hear that? And we're like, okay, like, let's talk about, like, yes, it was on Facebook, but, you know, where was it coming from? What's the source? Mm-hmm. So I like to, like, how do we, through this conversation, work to the truth of it, right? Mm-hmm. Because we are so inundated with so much stuff going on, and it's just easy to, you know, believe it for face value. So we've tried to start with that perspective to say, okay, well, let's get to the root of this. Like, is it really true? You know, where is it coming from? What's the backstory? You know, something like that. But, you know, past that, you know, let's say, you know, the crazy story pans out, right? I'm trying to be able to have the conversations, and I think it's the goal of the conversation would be like not to win, right? We're not trying to win the conversation. We're trying to, you know, learn from each other. And I try really hard, again, like I'm trying to understand that perspective, you know, to see where it's at, because, and thinking about the election, the current administration isn't always going to be here, right? There's going to be other elections. Mm-hmm. There's going to be other viewpoints, other issues, and everything that comes up even after this right. election season. So, you know, hopefully, you know, the conversation, you know, can continue to happen, because, you know, that's how we're learning from each other. And I think it's just really hard right now, because it is just such you know, just, you know, unprecedented, right? That's the buzzword. You know, time. Yeah. But so I think this particular season is a little bit harder to have those conversations. Mm-hmm. But, you know, that's my hope, is that, you know, we get to the truth of it, get to the truth of the sources, and then, you know, still converse with each other and listen to each other, to not, like we said, win a conversation in the end of things.
That's really good. I love that. That's really, really good.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, I haven't figured it out completely either. You know, I really struggle between, you know, when is it appropriate to listen, and when do you need to speak up? And it's really, really difficult. And, you know, I have to be self-aware and know that, like, for myself, like I tend to try to not say anything most of the time because I don't want to cause conflict and just like keep things smooth and calm. But sometimes you do need to say something, and sometimes I know that I keep quiet and I lose opportunities to have deeper conversations. But it's definitely a challenge, and I was thinking about it today. I mean, I've probably been fairly active in politics like my whole adult life, and but it definitely feels more intense the past 4 years.
Yeah.
And and it feels very can feel very personal when someone votes a certain way
Sure.
for someone who is saying hateful things about people like myself or people that I care about. And so it can become, feel very personal. And so I see a lot of people on Facebook and, social media, cutting people off for saying, if you vote this way, like, I just don't think I can be your friend anymore. And like,
Yeah.
I understand that feeling and that reaction. But at the same time, like and this comes from both Republicans and Democrats, both sides reacting in ways like this. I think, we really have to, at least with people we actually have personal relationships with, like we need to be able to prioritize that relationship. I think not to your own detriment, if it is like causing you harm, maybe you need to take a step back from it for a time. But to be willing to have some conversations and be willing to go back and try again, maybe let's not talk until after this election is over. Take a little break, but come back to it. Is otherwise we all end up in our own isolated little bubbles.
Yeah.
And that certainly doesn't help. But I've been rereading this book. I don't know.
Don't be wrong.
Did that come out right on your end, or is it mirror?
No, it looks right to me.
Okay. I'm like, when I see myself, it's all backwards. Okay.
And I'll put that too, like when all of you are seeing this on Sunday, I'll put the name of the title and the link and stuff in the comments so that people can, if they want to check it out.
But this has been really helpful for me to reread right now. It's by a rabbi, and it's he's mostly writing about religious differences, but I have found it to be really helpful also in thinking about political differences and how do you engage while being honest to yourself and your beliefs, but still being respectful and honoring the humanity of the person who doesn't believe the same as you do.
Yeah.
So that's been really helpful. And so that's my imperfect answer. I don't know if there's
I love it.
solution exactly.
I love it too that you're both like, and I'm right there with you where it's like still working on that, have not figured that one out yet.
Yeah.
It's hard, and you, Sabrina, you started saying something and I want to speak have us speak a little bit more to that. Because again, I think one of the ways that we get into trouble is when either exist within echo chambers where we're only listening to people that think just like us, and when we're not broadening our perspective, you know, with what other people think, but then also, like how I said earlier, how before it was like I could vote, I could cast my vote, and I never really had to think about, it didn't feel like the results of that election were actually affecting me on a personal level. Some of that has changed now. There are people that I love and things going on, you know, where I'm like, no, that there definitely can be some personal impact, you know, depending on what policies are in place and things of that nature. But also, I think, you know, it's so important for us to listen to other people who are impacted by those things and to take that into consideration when we're voting. So, and again, you can each share as much as you feel comfortable with, but you know, and it's no secret that, and you said the past 4 years have felt, Sabrina, you said have just felt more tense than usual. And I mean, I can say, I feel like this election carries a heavier weight than any election that I've been alive for a lot of different ways. It has felt much more intense, I think, than I've ever, you know, felt before. And so are there ways that this particular election are personally impacting you as an individual, or could potentially impact you as an individual? And if so, you know, what kind of ways is it having an impact on you?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sabrina.
Well, I mean, for Locke and I, we're personally very going to be affected by anything that happens in regards to LGBT Q rights. You know, I was reading in somebody's political ad that we got.
One of the like thousands that have come in the mail.
Yeah.
in the past few weeks.
That one of the things, if they're elected, that they would like to pass is to prevent transgender adolescents or teens, prevent them from being able to have any access to transitioning. And I mean, we're also, like I mentioned, in the process foster adopt, and you know, some of the kids that we've been looking at and potentially, you know, talking about as being placed with us are transgender teens, and so that would affect, you know, is going to affect them, and how are they treated at school, and how are they, you know, are they able to make the decision, even just to not take hormones, but take like the hormone blockers, you know, so that to prevent puberty and that kind of thing. Like even that could be decided at the state level.
Yeah.
But then there's always the constant, I mean, it feels like a constant back and forth between like, are LGBT people included in non-discrimination policies or not? And yeah, and then also very close to my heart are a lot of my friends and people I care about in the immigrant and undocumented communities, and what happens to them. I mean, one of the races that we're working on getting people out to vote in Bastrop County is the sheriff's election, we don't endorse anybody and we don't tell people who to vote for. But the incumbent has done a lot of stuff that has been very damaging and very hurtful to the immigrant community and split up a lot of families.
Wow.
And so, you know, it's like that's one race that is going to have a very significant impact on people I care about.
Yeah.
So that's just a couple ways for me. You know.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Like, you know, we don't take that vulnerability lightly, so thank you for being willing to share that. And it's important for us, you know, for me as a, you know, cisgendered white woman, you know, like I have to listen to people when they're telling me this is something that could impact me, you know. And so I appreciate you sharing that with us and with all of us at large that's on this, you know, watching church today. So thank you for that.
I think for me, just a lot of women's rights. You know, I mean, just when it comes to healthcare, you know, I mean, just everything that, you know, equal pay, you know, just, I mean, everything when it comes down to that. You know, being a mom to 2 girls, you know, I think about that. What's it going to be like for them when they grow up? You know, just all of that. It's just been so eye-opening to, you know, even, you know, during, you know, birth, you know, I mean, birth isn't necessarily the easiest thing in the world. And, you know, some people, you know, just like, oh, it's just you're giving birth and nothing's going to go wrong. You know, like, I mean, just those kinds of things, you know, making sure that, you know, the politicians know those types of things to protect, you know, women and, you know, just all of that. I think it really sits on me and sits on my heart for my girls, for every, you know, every woman growing up. You know, what can we do? I mean, always we've seen through generations past, like everyone that's fought in the past to get to where we are now. So, you know, the fight's never going to end. But, you know, how do we continue to fight to make it a little bit easier for them, you know, as we just continue on. So I think for me, that's what always sits with me. And then like you too, Sabrina, I mean, just the immigration laws, you know, just knowing everything going on, you know, just I don't, you know anything personally, but, you know, just seeing what it's like from someone in our, you know, people in our communities, you know, just it's tough to see all that. So I think those are the 2 that I always kind of come back to. That definitely would like to see that needs a change. That definitely needs a change.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and just do one more question, just so that, because I feel like I could talk with you guys about this for a really long time, because I'm just really enjoying hearing what you're saying and hearing your perspective and your input. But I also realize that, you know, people are going to be watching this and they're going to be like, okay, it's going a little long. So
Today's the long service, guys.
Yeah, this is the long service. But so, okay. So, you know, we've talked about voting and why that matters and issues that are important to you. And we know that voting is one way that we can use our voice and be politically engaged. But what are some ways maybe that you currently, or ways that you would like to get involved to use your voice and to be engaged in your community beyond just the voting booth? What are some things that you are currently doing or that you would like to do to kind of use your voice in other ways to make a difference in your community where you're at?
I think this one has always been, and I don't know if it's just been this year, but just trying to find other little ways. And I know during COVID, it's been difficult as well too. But I'm also, I laugh, Kelly, when you say it, like, you're like, I'm an extrovert. I don't like to, you know, amongst big crowds is exhausting, because I'm the same way. I'm like, yes, that's me. So it takes a little bit for me to kind of seek those things out. But I think for me, it is so true about, you know, community, getting involved. I will say it again, just, you know, even our small groups here at Icon, having that opportunity to open that conversation to others, you know, and even if it's just, you know, seeking those different groups out, and also, you know, just kind of being brave and, you know, reaching out to those kinds of, you know, to other people to open up the conversation. And I think something new for me, that I was very hesitant, because I'm not a big like online social media community type person, but here recently there has been a group called She Se Puede. It's a whole social media community, and I didn't know exactly what it was at first or where it was all starting, but it has been pretty awesome. And getting to hear other, you know, Latinas around the world, their stories, from all over New York, California, Florida, like everywhere. So even something small like that, like using those platforms and those communities to hear other people's stories, not, you know, just locally, but, you know, across the nation, I think has been something very surprising for me. That has been really kind of cool, to get engaged, you know, across the communities. And just, I think the big part of that too is building the confidence, not only in yourself, but in your communities, and listening to other people's stories, I think can do that, provide that confidence for them to tell their stories. So that way, you get to learn from each other. I think that's a big thing on why people maybe don't speak up, or don't seek out to want to get involved in politics or want to get involved in their communities, because it's that lack of confidence. I know from the Latina community, that's the thing. You know, we all have our voices, we all have our opinions, and all of our stories matter. It's just a matter of growing that confidence in each other, to share those stories, so that way we can get more involved and, you know, just grow our communities. So that's been something really surprising for me these past 2 weeks, to get involved in some, like, you know, random platform out there, but you know, something very surprising like that you seek out could be really, really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. That's so great.
I have a couple of things. First, I'll put a plug for my organization that I work for. It's Central Texas Interfaith, and I was a full-time organizer with them. That's actually how I met Pastor Dan and Pastor Callie originally.
And can you also explain a little bit about what that is, just for people that might, you know, be curious?
Yeah. So, you know, we're in the middle of doing all this get out the vote work right now, but that's really just a small piece of what we do. We work with faith communities, schools, sometimes neighborhood groups, labor groups, really to bring people together and talk about the issues that people are dealing with, and teach people the skills to train and develop them as leaders to address those issues with their elected officials. So in my work, you know, I've worked with leaders on everything from improving street drainage and sewage connections, and getting loose dogs under control, to immigration reform and access to health care. And so there is, it was Austin Interfaith, and it's now grown to Central Texas Interfaith. And so it's not only Austin, Travis County, but now the corridor, which is like Kyle, Buda, San Marcos, Bastrop County, and then it goes up north to Williamson County and out to Waco College Station. And it really, you know, one of the things that I love about it is that it's real focused on relationship building and getting people into conversation. And you know, it was some of the meetings we had, I would have, you know, a Catholic and a Unitarian and you know, Methodist and non-denominational, like all at the same table. And so it's really beautiful, but then finding the things that like we all care about, you know, the things that we're all concerned about, because again, it comes down to, you know, those ways, like how do we live together and how do we care for one another?
Yeah.
So would love to, you know, get Icon more engaged with that. Would be wonderful. And then the second thing I was going to share, well, does that give a
Yes.
good
Oh yeah.
summary of it? Okay.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
The second thing I was going to share, Locke and I just finished a 4-week workshop with Preemptive Love, which Pastor Kelly had told me about that organization. But they're doing these workshops. I think they said the next one will be in January. But it's for 4 weeks. Just they meet once a week online, and talking about this exact kind of stuff, you know, and how do you build relationships with people different from you. And it was really good. And they're going to be doing it should be on their website. They said they were going to be doing a post-election panel or workshop kind of
I bet
thing.
that'll be really good.
Yes. Yeah. So
after the,
I would definitely,
after the election, it's like we still have work to do, no matter what happens. You know, like
yes.
So, yep. The division's not going to just go away overnight. You know, like it's just So that Well, I'll definitely, I'll have all of have that link and stuff ready so that we can just put that all in the comments for people as they're listening. But
oh, great. Yeah, that's been really helpful, and we really enjoyed it.
Awesome. Yeah, you know, there really are. It's like there's so many resources and so many people doing such great work around bringing people together, you know, how to care for people by the way that we engage in politics. How, you know, there's so many wonderful resources, and I'm actually compiling a list. So for everybody watching, I'm going to also include, after this video, we'll have a list of a bunch of resources for everybody, just to be able to learn and to grow and to expand our perspectives. And well, you guys, thank you so much. I seriously, I feel like I could keep talking forever, but I'm looking at the time going, we probably need to wrap it, just because we have like a limited amount of time that we can actually be on Church Online. So like it's going to like cut us off, you know, or it's like when you were a kid, you'd watch TV and it would go to like the dead screen where it was just like the colored stripes or whatever. Okay, you guys are done. But I wanted to end with a couple things. So I got this from Eugene Cho's book, Thou Shalt Not Be a Jerk. But I just thought that these two things are so helpful. He said there was someone, he was having a conversation with someone, or maybe it was someone that had written a book that he had read. But they said there's two really great questions that we can ask each other when we're engaging with people that we disagree with. And one of them is, can you help me understand what you believe? And then the other question is, what brought you to those conclusions? And I just thought, I was like, what great questions. Like, as we're engaging with people when it comes to faith and politics and how those things intersect, like, just what a great way for us to be able to seek to understand, like Christine, like you were saying, when we're in conversations, it's not about winning the conversation, but it's about listening and seeking to understand, because most people, like the beliefs that most people have, there's a reason why, whether we agree with them or not, or whether we think they're terrible beliefs, or not, like most people have a reason for why they came to those conclusions. And so I think seeking, and when we can understand that helps us to understand so much more about, oh, so this is why that matters to you. This is why you think that way, So yeah, I just wanted to share that. I thought that was so good. And so this has been really great and helpful for me. I've been learning so much from both of you, and just appreciate both of your perspectives and what you bring to Icon and to this world. And so, yeah, thank you both so much. Do either of you have any parting words that you would like to say? If not, that's okay.
I think what you said, Kelly, like the work isn't done, right? Just because this election's coming to an end, there's still a lot to be done. However, the election turns out, one person's not gonna fix it all.
Yep.
It's not gonna change overnight. So, just let's all, still be prepared to do this kind of work, because it's still gonna be needed for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
For sure.
Man, I don't know. I just want to keep talking with y'all more. So I don't know what to say for the final words. I'll just want to show you my kitten.
Oh, yay. We can
Yeah,
use that.
let's see.
We can use that. It's like therapy. Oh,
Sleeping in my arms.
cute.
So comfy.
I know tonight, Dan and I, there's a show on Apple TV. It's called, Tiny World. But it's how Planet Earth, they go and they film animals and stuff. Well, they focus on the tiniest animals. And the first episode, it was in Africa, and I was sitting there watching it, and I'm like, and it's Paul Rudd who narrates it. And it's not the oh my gosh, that lion is killing that gazelle and this is stressful and terrible. It's like, no, there was a happy ending for every scenario. And it was super cute. And I'm like, this is the energy that 2020 needs right now. These cute little animals where everything turns out happy. It was just,
right.
Yeah. So your kitten reminded me of that. I'm like, sometimes we need the goodness and the beauty and the cuteness to kind of help offset all of the wildness and the tension. So
For sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
We will go ahead and wrap this up. But again, thank you, Christine. Thank you, Sabrina, for sharing your perspective. And let's just keep these conversations going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
All right. We'll see you later.
Do now.
Hey, welcome back. Gosh, such a great conversation. Christine and Sabrina, again, thank you for your wisdom and your input and sharing your perspective with us. Also, thanks everyone for engaging in the chat. Just some really great conversations happening there. We are putting the different resources in the chats on the different platforms of just some books, some podcasts, some online webinars that you can be a part of if you would like to dig a little deeper into this idea of, engaging politically, faithfully as followers of Jesus. We just want you to know that throughout the next few days, as Election Day is approaching and things feel tense and wild for so many of us, we just want you to know that we are thinking of you. We love you. We are here for anyone. If you need anything, just someone to process with, we are here. So I'm going to wrap it up quickly because we have like a couple of minutes before our eKids service is going to start. But again, thank you all so much for joining in today. And we just hope that this is a really fabulous week for all of you. And we will see you right back here next Sunday. It wouldn't be in a Sunday without Dan doing all of... Thanks, babe. Appreciate that. All right.